Steve Connect, soon to be retired.
And Bonnie Lovelace in the director's office at DEQ. So, thank you. We are going to do the audience as well. Let's give the folks on the phone, and then we'll do the audience. So, on the phone, please. Anyone else on here?
John Carter with the Fort Bend Police Department representing the Montana Association of Chiefs.
Bill Caldwell, Missoula Rural Fire District Fire Chief. I'm currently the chair of the Hazmat Subcommittee in the SERC.
Anyone else on the phone? Okay, Mary Beth, is that you, Vasco?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Steve,
Steve Dan for Richland County Health Department. Is there a problem with the live stream?
okay,
It's only recording right now. It'll be up in a minute.
okay, it's okay. You may not have heard that. Right now, for some reason, it's only recording, and it'll be up in just a minute or two. So
Okay.
stay with it. Okay. Sorry about that. We're learning to use the camera. We haven't used it very often, and we're trying to get into the technology. So bear with us. Okay, anyone else on the phone?
John Campbell, Assistant Chief, Kalispell Fire, Kalispell Regional Hazmat Team Leader.
Tom Nelson with the Confederate Sailors Community Tribe and Montana Indian Nation Working Group.
Thank you. Anyone else on the phone?
Tanya Francis with the National Weather Service in Glasgow and the chairperson for the Montana EAS Subcommittee. Mike will be presenting for us today, but we are listening.
Thank you very much.
And Tom Prater's here from the National Weather Service in Billings, part of the EAS Subcommittee.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Okay, hearing no more responses, at this point I'm going to go to the room. Marshall, would you start here, and then we'll go in the front row here?
Marshall Rock, Montana Disaster Services.
Peter Beck, Missoula County Emergency Management.
Per Consul, Montana DES.
Tom Kohler, Montana DES.
Brad Livingston, sabbatical.
Very good.
John Culbertson, Montana Fire Training School. Michael Radke, new guy at DES.
Mike Stab, DES, with the state.
Mike Grant with DES.
In the back row is the microphone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hillary, you want to say anything?
Hillary Houle, DEQ/technical support.
Thank you very much, folks. All right, let's move forward then with the agenda review. I'm sorry. Doing this? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Favorite County. Thank you very much. All right, very good. Those of you on the phone, if you would make sure things are muted for background noises, that will help the whole situation. So appreciate that if you would. Thank you. Unless you're speaking, of course. Okay. All right, the first item of on the agenda, other than these introductions, is if we have any amendments to the agenda itself. Is there anything that anyone feels they need to add or move at this point in time? Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. That was easy. We'll just move forward then. We have a voting item next. It's the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. And I'm going to stop for a second. I just heard a beep on the phone. Did someone just join us?
Yeah, hi Bonnie, this is Kathy Hipsio with EPA.
Hello, Kathy. Thank you for joining us. And you wouldn't have heard it, but if you're looking at our live streaming, it should be coming along pretty quick.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. We have the minutes from the spring meeting. Does anyone have any amendments or comments on that before we vote? Any discussion?
I move approval.
Thank you. Second, no second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have moved it and seconded it. All All those in favor of adoption, please say aye. Any opposed, same sign. No one's opposed, unanimous, thank you. Yeah, we need to, record.
Mike, Jim,
Thank you, thank you. Okay, moving right along, Steve, would you care to address your duty officer reports?
I will. On the right side of your packet should have duty officer report here. Before I get going, the data that I use is part of our duty officer database, and it goes back to 1997. So throughout here, I am comparing this year to the average of the previous years. Now, in the first one is just a historical representation of the percentage of calls that our duty officers have taken over the last lots of years. Almost 63% of those calls you can see are hazmat, which is what the primary purpose of the SERC was when we first stood up and why our duty officer program exists. I apologize for not having enough of the labels on that pie chart, but if you have any questions, you can certainly ask which color is which. Second page is just the aggregate numbers of calls. You can see that over the last lots of years that we have, up through the middle of September anyway, we see 3,760 hazmat calls, and then the comparison to all of the other incidents that we track. One caveat I want to add, though, is several years ago we quit tracking the watches and warnings. That was about the time that the new radar came out, and we were getting severe thunderstorm warnings like every 10 minutes as the storm moved through a jurisdiction. And we went away from tracking that and just tracked the real severe stuff, the microbursts, the tornadoes, and that kind of stuff. So that 475 was prior to the DOT. Third page, we're getting down to the comparison, the historical average to this last year, and we saw an uptick in food and consumable goods, fairly substantial. Really don't have the answer for why. Hazmat is right in there. It was 207 this year compared to an average of 208.4. And our calls overall on the far right-hand side, our calls for the previous year were 298 compared to 305. So we're staying right in there with the number of calls. The next page with the Green Bay Packer colors are the hazmat categories, and you'll notice under crude oil one, for instance, the average is 19.8, and this year we've had 27, and that's been a continual increase over the past couple of years, partially, well, mostly due to the Bakken development. In addition, we have had a lot of truck wrecks spilling the diesel fuel associated with the Bakken. Next page has to do with releases, and as usual, excuse me, the soil releases are the most common. Nothing really out of the ordinary on the others. Contained would include the crude oil tanks that have a containment area. It would include truck wrecks that tip over with bad stuff, but nothing leaks, even though it's the mixed cargo and so forth. So the atmosphere is primarily the refineries that have the SO2 burps and so forth. I went another step further and broke out our calls by DES district. 3, South Central, District 4 to the southeast. Southeast corner, District 5 is the Billings central area. District 6 is above the, primarily above the Missouri River east of Havre. And you can see that District 4 has definitely a bump, as well as District 6 as far as the number of calls. Again, that has to do with the lock. Hope I'm not boring you too bad. Got a couple more slides to go through. The next one has to do with the number of calls by hour of the day, and I wanted to show you that the 10% one, of course, is the 4 to 5 calls that we routinely get. That is the most common end of the day kind of thing. But we do get calls all hours of the day and night, and if you figure the 1% over roughly 4,400 calls, that still adds up to quite a few that get that Saturday off. And the point was to just get across they are a 24/7 resource. The next is the calls by day of the week, and of course Monday is the high one. Stuff again gets called in Monday morning. Saturday and Sundays are the lowest. That may have to do with the difference of traffic flow and so forth. So, any questions?
I have one question for you about this material, the electronic material.
Sure can.
We would like to, maybe if you're on the website, or we can send it out to the circle.
Either way.
That would be good, thank you very much. All right. We are ready already for subcommittee reports. We're just moving right along. Marshall, would you care to step in?
Oh, wait, it's okay, Monty, I'll sit right here.
That's fine.
I'll be presenting on behalf of Bruce Sumner on the activities of the All Hazard Incident Management Team Subcommittee. A lot of things going on right now. Probably number one to talk about is we had Mike Kapinski with the NRC had agreed this spring to take the IMT coordination role on a short-term basis. He's a retired employee. Effective September 30th, as we agreed with the NRC, they are no longer platforming that position. So essentially, we had a transition with Montana DNRC. They did a very, very clean turnover of all the documentation, status of all the projects back to us. Montana DES, myself and Tam Kolar will be working with that program over the next several months in an interim role. I'll be working with our agency administrator, Burke, and what we're really trying to do is see how we can sustain that position in the long term. And I think that part of that discussion can be with the SERC. But it's full-time. There's interest from the Forest Service in actually doing a cost share on that position out of Missoula. But I can say with confidence for the next 3 or 4 months, and I've sent this out to teams that I'll be doing the interim coordination. Any questions on that? I know there are several of the team coordinators here, Adrian, and Patrick, Chief Caldwell's on the phone. The other thing with many of you know, over the last several years, we've been able to do a lot of IMT development activities with the Homeland Security grant. That grant was awarded again this year, Burke. I think it was $154,000.
Roughly 150.
Okay. Because of some better interpretation of the grant guidance, the Montana State Fire Chiefs were no longer able to host that grant, and it has moved since to the Columbus Rural Fire District under Chief Cowder and his board. The training and development portion, we still meet once a month. I know John's been on those calls and looking at activities we can fund with that grant. We had some very good education with Homeland Security this year. They had some misperceptions on what we were doing with that money. Essentially, someone thought we were just subsidizing a firefighting effort at the ground level. We said, no, firefighting has been a platform to develop these management skills. The management skills are applicable in any arena. And I think some products the Kalispell Air Show, for example, we showed them an incident action plan from that activity that jurisdiction had built without a dime of federal money, that essentially they use this incident command for any large event, and how that improved, the nexus of terrorism with Homeland Security. So this is a large public event. Had it gone south with some either natural, man-made disaster or terrorist act, this jurisdiction was in place to manage that expanding event. Just like Boston was in Boston. They practice ICS, they use ICS, and that happened. They know the management well. So I think those are some good achievements. We had a successful staff ride in May that Mike Kapinski put together with Mike Dubrowski from the guidance group. We had about 60 attendees. Went out and actually worked with the original responders from the 96 Alpine train derailment. Had listened to what they learned with that experience. And the students were asked to go into work groups and come up with some lessons learned from that they could present. Say, we've got a lot of experience here. We've been down this road before. Let's not forget that. Summer was busy. Flathead County Incident Management Team was involved with the fire at Essex. Adrian, your team you had about 3 potential.
We managed 2 fires and then we had kind of individuals out.
Okay, so yeah, both as going out as a team and sending out single resource folks. Patrick, your team. Well, your team was out this summer. Okay. And with Chief Koontz also, their folks were pretty tied up with a lot of activities. I think really what that's showing is we're getting sustainable with the teams. The problem is during fire season, this fire, as you well know, has a lot of secondary impacts on the population. But those teams are getting, rightfully so, pulling their management of that. So we still, I think, have a ways to go with building a capacity. For example, having 3 positions rostered for each command general staff. So we've got some depth. We did have a very successful deployment to the Blackfeet Nation of a Colorado all-hazard team about August 29th. If you were following the news, a fire came out of wilderness area managed by the Forest Service with a wind event and threatening community heartbeat. The tribal nation was really stretched with managing the secondary impacts, the sheltering impact, public information impact. They don't have a lot of depth like many of us, and one person staying up 24 hours trying to manage those issues is not really sustainable. So, working with the Forest Service and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we actually ordered up an all-hazard team from Colorado to come assist that jurisdiction. And we obviously wanted to use a Montana team, but all our teams were tied up with their own problem. And I think really the key success there was the buy-in from the federal agencies. The Forest Service paid for this because it was their fire, and they said, we want to help this nation out. The BIA wouldn't happen without them, and of course it wouldn't happen without the Blackfeet Nation. So that we started a discussion on a Saturday morning. We had some issues pop up in the ordering system. We ordered them through the ROS system, the resource ordering status system, rather than EMAC. ROS is what the fire world uses. It was cleaner financially. There was no question about reimbursement or DES hanging on their bill or Robert having a bill laying in his inbox. We worked those issues Saturday night with the state of Colorado. Those folks got their actual resource order in hand Sunday morning, and we got them up here on Monday afternoon. That's still a long time. But the reality, we were able to get up here. We weren't here very long because we had a rain event, so that's good, right? But they got 2 or 3 good days of work done with Robert. We've done initial AAR on that. One thing we want to capture out is what that actually costs. What does it cost to get a team employed from out of state to start developing that cost down? And, again, I'm speaking on behalf of Bruce. I think some of the challenges on our plate right now, we need to get that all-hazard subcommittee stood up again. We haven't met in quite a while. We still have, I believe, finally we had the issue about Senate Bill 5 was passed, effective July 1st. The committee was going to ask the SERC to adopt our mobilization guide as the administrative rules. And I don't know the status. Okay, so that's,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't capture that right now.
okay,
We'll talk and we've seen it, I believe. Hasn't the entire SERC seen that mobilization guide for all hazards? I thought,
But it was before the discussion of it taking place in ours.
okay. So we had a future, we had an adoption and then talked about the rules. And probably, I believe we decided we didn't need rules right now. So, okay, thank you. It took me a minute to retrieve it, thank you, Patrick. So we do have it adopted, so if there's any follow-up with the renting that SERC, maybe has some committee stuff in the middle, get them sorted out.
yes, I think, once we get looped back in with Bruce to get a subcommittee meeting going soon and to recapture where we are in some of those issues, we still have some of the payment issues to work through. And then, of course, to have the discussion about what the IMD coordination was.
Sounds good.
That's the end of my report. If folks have any questions. Just,
Add on.
yeah,
The marshal did a really good summary of getting that Colorado team up here, but there's a lot of potential benefit from that activity down the road and making that happen. The Ross system, that was the second time ever that's ever been achieved, and so while it wasn't fun to marshal at that point in time on Saturday, those road bumps that we overcame and figured out, worked out, will make it easier down the road when we're in a similar situation. So I think that's a really good move and a lot of work that we've done by Marshall and other people to make that happen. To my knowledge, that happened twice this summer. The team we brought up, and Washington did the same thing for a San Diego team. Those are the only two times that's ever happened. So it was a good thing. Hopefully it'll be beneficial down the road.
yeah, we are trying to put together a Ross working group, Patrick, with the federal agencies too. And we did an AR last week to capture what really worked well, and we want to continue that this year.
Very good. Any other questions?
Just a comment, Marshall, and you mentioned Bruce and this railroad,
Sorry, Bill.
Rather antiquated system.
Just wanted to mention that Northwestern Energy, we invited Bruce and Mike over to train about 60 of our key responders, key supervisors that are called to respond on the incident management system and or incident command system, and that training went very well. I really appreciate the efforts of Bruce and Mike coming over and having us out. It was a great team on their part. I think the petroleum industry, the rail industry, so far did a good job with their response activities, and I think Northwestern does too. But I also believe that it's important for us to ensure that we're using the same terminology and the same game plan in place and the priorities in place when we're rubbing shoulders with first responders. So, that's what
I'm not getting any. Sorry.
I'll put in there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I remember my taking those ICS classes for you. I think about the Missoula avalanche and urban avalanche, and your crews are right in the middle of that. And recently, this summer with the Burlington Northern and Essex, where that unified command, I understood everything went very smooth, using the vast amount of resources they had to help that incident management team protect that community.
Thank you for your comments. And I guess I would have a general question of, do you see a further need for that training? Do you anticipate interacting further on it?
We do, I think we're all kind of faced with the aging workforce, and so we're seeing quite a bit of turnover in our company. So as we get, and that's why we really want to lead this training, because we have some independent involved.
Okay, great, thank you. Look forward to continuing that relationship.
But I'm not one of those
Okay. All right, anything else?
The other piece that I'd like to offer up too, those after action reviews, sharing that information, that's how we all get better. And so I definitely encourage that as we get some experience, make sure we get the word out about what went well, what can we say, as we self-reflect, because that's how we all get better through that process. And petroleum industry is starting to get better also, sharing that information amongst themselves and working together collaboratively, so.
Good, thank you. Anybody, anyone else? Okay, thank you, Marshall and Patrick, for the updates and for your comments. Appreciate that.
Just a note for Nick, share the summary of the report questions by the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks for speaking up. Okay. We are trying to have pretty good minutes. Thank you. All right, next one, Bill, can you hear us okay and ready to take off?
Well, I've been flying all morning, so, if
Oh,
you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning.
And apparently you can't hear me then. As Dusty said, we are experiencing an aging workforce. So he, doesn't want to take part of that. I am part of that aging workforce. So, relative to the hazmat subcommittee, we have not done anything yet for the HMEP. We're not, we've not heard a lot of communication, relative to that. And I think Sherry is going to talk about, the regional hazmat team, recertification approval. And she's also going to visit later in the agenda about, the building rates. So, a lot of that information will be covered, later and already has been covered by Steve, the duty officer. At the last SERC meeting, we talked about, the aging workforce situation a little bit. And in the June meeting of the regional hazmat team members, they brought forth the name, of John Campbell, the assistant chief at Kalispell, as a suggestion to the SERC, to be, the replacement for the chairperson of the hazmat subcommittee. John, is an 11-year, employee of the Kalispell Fire Department. He's the assistant chief up there currently, and the manager of that, Kalispell team. He, started his hazmat career, a few years before that. That was a little fire district, and then went, I think, to South Carolina for a while, and then to Alaska. So he has a long history in hazmat, and I believe he's on the conference line, so you guys can visit if you have additional questions directly to him. But, the members of the team, the members of the teams that met in June of all 6 teams, considered several people who were interested, in taking the position. Scott Sanders was one, Johnson was another, Steve Hester was another, and John Campbell. And we looked at the geography, and the, dispersion of the teams and the membership who are already active at the state level and leadership of the organization. And along with John's experience, in response and having boots on the ground, and geography of the teams, our suggestion to the SERC is that John Campbell be, is nominated to you and, suggested to you as a person to fill my position as, chairperson of the subcommittee, and that's a big concern. With that, I have any questions, you can certainly visit now with me or with John. I would offer that proposal to you.
Okay, why don't we, discuss this for a few minutes, we need a motion. Scott,
Motion, to elect or approve Chief Campbell as the new hazmat
all right, thank you, is there a second? Okay. Please make sure Sherry's got it. Okay, these are demands, and these. Okay, so you got what you need? Okay, very good. Okay, that being the case, we have a motion that's been seconded, so let's have discussion. Are there questions for, either Bill or John? Well, that's easy. Nothing? John?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good, just verifying that you are, I thought I heard you earlier. And, I wanna thank you just for being willing to step up and take on this job. I'm sure we'll get to know a number of us, and I appreciate it. We're gonna vote now, okay? was there anything that you wanted to say before we do that?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, that's fine, didn't mean to put you on the spot, so thank you. All right, that being the case, let's move forward. All in favor of this appointment, would you care to say aye? Any opposed? Same sign? Done, so we're unanimously, in approval. So congratulations, John, and welcome aboard to the effort.
I'd just like to thank Chief Caldwell for
Thank you
his
very much. I look forward to it.
Go ahead, Scott. No, hold on. We're gonna get Scott a mic because we want this heard.
I just wanted to thank Chief Caldwell for all of his years of service and helping us through everything. He's kind of the godfather of benefit for the state, so appreciate it.
He is,
Thanks,
and
Chief.
certainly is seconded by a number of people here, so thank you, Bill, very much.
You're certainly welcome, and we will continue in a little different vein, but I heard there's some rumors floating around about non-retiring and retiring and all those kinds of things. So if that becomes more clear in my mind, I will share more with you. But I believe I am going to stay engaged in a little different role here at Rollfire that probably will continue my involvement. But having someone who is engaged daily in the delivery of this service and the administration of the service, I think is very beneficial to the state and to the server. I believe John can do that very well. The state chiefs at that meeting in June also Chief Steve Hester to represent the state chiefs on that committee, and I believe that the state chiefs make that appointment. So just listen to those that Chief Steve Hester of the Great Falls Fire represent the Montana State Fire Chiefs Association. And everyone, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I'm glad you're not totally signing out and will still be around for us to interact with. We appreciate your service.
Look forward to
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question, Sherry.
Chief Hester. Great call. Who received the
For the
fire chief's statement.
Thank you. All right then, let's move to, EAS, IPAWS, the subcommittee report. Mike, are you ready?
I'm right here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was asked to give a brief update where we're at with EAS. It's almost completed. It went out about 3 weeks ago for hopefully the final review. Thought it was done. And there were some other suggested changes, and went back out. Just waiting those response to the recommendations. So hopefully we'll have it out in a few weeks, and then we'll go out to SERC.
Is that something we're going to be on?
Yeah.
In there, it's accepted at the end?
Something that's gonna be the next meeting, but you will have it before it is out.
Plenty of time to look at it, maybe ask questions. Okay. Very good.
And then as far as the iPods goes, we've reviewed the list for, there are certain requirements for the aggregate or for the gateway, for the software. And there are only a couple of companies that actually meet the majority of those requirements set forth by FEMA. And I just got another one this morning from my lab that we returned from Miami, so we'll have to look at that one as well. And then from there, we'll go into how to purchase it. That's it. Questions or?
No questions? Comments? Wishes? All right, thank you. Sorry I didn't see you before you out there.
That's all right.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next item is, we get the unfinished business area of the agenda, and, Steve's gonna talk to us about the DOT grants.
Okay, Chief Coleman mentioned earlier the HNE grant. Kathy Glass, and before she departed already, managed this grant program, so we're playing a little catch up with it, so I may not have all the answers. I've been involved in it for lots of years, but may not have all the answers. But anyway, in your packet, there's an overview of this grant program. Grant program is administered by U.S. Department of Transportation as well as Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration. It's set up for two different types of activity, planning and training, and applicants are encouraged to apply for one or both using the same system. The focus is supposed to be on transportation-related hazardous material type events. The second page of that shows our grant agreement with Department of Transportation, and it shows that we were awarded $135,677 federal funds, which is going to require a $33,919 non-federal match. That can be both in kind or match. Below that are the jurisdictions that applied, and that was vetted back in April with the hazmat team as far as these being good projects. And if you notice, at the end of the planning and training grants, they come up to the $135,677. Now there are some commodity flow studies in here. There are some tabletop functional exercises for oil derailments. There's a continuing challenge workshop conference for some of the regional hazmat teams, and there's awareness training and so forth. So these are the subrecipients of this grant as far as I see in the file. So any questions regarding this? This starts, by the way, October 1st. It goes through September eventually.
Any questions for Steve on some of these grants? Do we know when the next round of grants will be? We're looking at it happened in April of last year, I think. There are some HMAP grants open right now, application process, so I believe that's starting again in the next round.
We had hoped to have our grant program folks here to explain this more in depth. However, because of some fairly strict deadlines with Homeland Security and awards, they're on the road right now, taking care of the millions of dollars in Homeland Security stuff. So timelines are real crucial when it comes to this, and as it worked out, our schedules overlap, and we set them on the board.
So more to come.
More to come.
All right, very good, thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Steve. See any? Any on the phone? Michelle, did you have something?
I do have a little bit of feedback on that. I would like to see if there's any way, and I'll do a little bit on this, outreach to.
I can't hear the person who's talking.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, thank you. That's exactly what we want you to do. We're passing a mic.
Gotta get more noise.
Just given the distribution of the assets across the state of Montana and the instance that we see, I was hoping there was a way to encourage counties over in eastern Montana to maybe come to the table. So I'm gonna do a little bit of legwork on my end, very encouraging to apply for these grants as well. I noticed there's a pretty significant concentration of grants being in western Montana. Not that that's an issue, but I do also see a lot of instances that we would like to see people trained and be prepared for in their training and regions. Hopefully in the future we can collaborate with them to get them to try to get some good funds available, distributed across the state.
Well, we appreciate your effort. We know that your focus is the education and training, and appreciate what you might do there. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, very good. All right, well, let's move to Patrick. And
I can move
Get your microphone, speak up though.
So I guess continuation from our last CERC meeting, I proposed the idea of looking at doing a statewide commodity flow study. And really, my thought with that is, we develop these response plans and various and sundry different types that are based on the hazards that we feel we face in our communities. And it didn't sound like anybody's really done a commodity flow study that takes into account what's coming across the rail, what's coming across the pipeline, what's coming across the highways. Now, on discussion there, it may not be all that difficult to go to the different, people that are involved in that and compile that together. However, it has to be done in a real long time that anybody could identify at the state level or in any local jurisdictions that anybody was aware of. And so I just think it would be in the state's best interest, whenever the next round of HMAP grants come up, that the state look at doing a statewide commodity flow study. So that's not for discussion or thoughts or action or whatever we need to do.
Tony?
I can tell you that from the railroad standpoint, I've had quite a few requests along our property for flow studies, and we have provided those to more than a handful of counties that we serve. And I know that both Union Pacific and BNSF, they have a formal way to request the study, and they will provide the information to you free of charge.
Pipelines also have a responsibility to report when tax protected on the county basis. Already are generating that data for other entities. But it's just like you said, it'd be nice to have the overall big picture of pulling together a report.
I think it's all easy to get, it's just somebody needs to sit down and compile it. And DOT, you guys have a pretty decent idea of what's going across the highways on some level, and it might just be more of a compilation issue and actually doing some statistical work than actually having to count vehicles or anything.
Okay, is that next proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's taking any action.
Okay, so really what you're asking us is that with the next round of grants, that the CERC itself consider applying for grant dollars to have someone pull all this together and make that available there. Is that the gist of it?
Yep, I think that the CERC, as accepting of the HMEP grant, could allocate a portion of those funds to do this as a state. And I don't know if that's something we take action on now, not knowing where that grant is at, or if we should wait until that grant's available.
I believe they do the announcements of the grant sometime around the first of the calendar year. And so this may be something that we want to talk about.
Yeah, so we either decide to pursue it now, or we may miss an application timeframe if we don't. So I do think we need to decide if we think we should do this. Sherry, you have some input for us?
For the planning, 80% of planning funds.
For the YouTube reporting that we're doing, we very much like to make sure everybody can be heard. And just about that, about the YouTube, there is a technical difficulty. There's something about the broadcast here in the building that's not getting it out. So we are fully recording it, and we will bookmark it and post it as soon as we can. It might not happen today, but it'll happen very quickly. We will put something out about that from DQ. So I'm sorry, we tried, but we are recording, and with that bookmark, you can go back and hear what the discussion was on something if you have that interest. So my apologies, but we're trying. And so let's move back into new business. Now, as we move through these items, we'll be in the middle of some discussions, and lunch will become at some point. We'll pick the right time and make that break and go from there. So during lunchtime, we are having a presentation, but we'll give people time to get their food and sit down and that kind of thing. So let's go forward. Delilah has the next item on the steering committee proposal. So let's go.
Thanks. Also note there's a sign-in sheet going around to make sure folks that do sign in. That'd be super helpful. Like Lonnie said, if we're in the middle of some conversations here, we will just go ahead and stop right at noon, move into our lunch session, and pick this item back up. So I guess just kind of recap, what was at the last CERC meeting? We had some really good conversations about what does the CERC want to be, where should it be going. Kind of heard some frustrations from folks on know we're making marked improvements. Is this the best use of our time? And so forth. And at the end of that meeting, there was a motion that we just approved in our minutes here. I'm going to go back and reference it. There was a motion that DES take a look at the structure of the SERC, how its members, how its subcommittees are structured, and figure out if we're really doing the best we can with this body, knowing that we are all government appointees and we're here for a specific mission under kind of elected initiatives that start the community right to know acts and things of that nature. So making sure we understand the purpose of the SERC, but then are we using it to its fullest utilization to represent the whole community in response initiatives. So with that was a tasking I've had as a certain member when I worked at public health. So since that time, I was appointed to be the administrator of DES, and you guys were generous enough to give me 30 days to pull together a subcommittee to start evaluating whether or not we're using it the best we could. Thank you for that abbreviated timeline, Patrick. I think that was you that said, really, you need 30 days to do that? I do appreciate it. It's a good mark. So from that point, basically, starting June 1st, we started brainstorming, how do we want to pull this together? And we sent out an invitation to this entire body and said, all right, all CERC members, all 29 of us, who would like to volunteer to be a part of this working group to look at our mission, our objectives, and what we're here to do. And we had a number of people step forward, and I hope I get everybody on this list. Lonnie with EQ, and also as the co-chair of the CERC, she volunteered for time. Bruce Serta with the NRC, Patrick Flanagan. I'm not sure if your role was with the DES Association or with the executive was with the association. Who wears so many hats? Tara Moore with the university system. Tony Vecino, who we've nicknamed Tom now because we managed to have his name wrong in every one of our meetings. So if I call you Tom in here, I apologize. Tony, thank you. And then Master Sergeant Jake, please say your last name.
Ganyu.
Ganyu. I'm sorry, I'll get it eventually. He's Master Sergeant Jake with the National Guard. Did I miss any of the volunteers that from the CERC that I don't think I did. They got it. All right. And because this was something that was tasked to DES to look at, we've had a lot of wonderful staff support. Steve has been a part of the support for this work group. Jaylee Okeson, we've likely seen all the emails from if you're on this work group, and then Ed Ramirez as well. So we thank you those folks for kind of helping us out. So we had our first meeting on June 30th, just in that 30-day window that I've given that tasking, and started talking about our vision, our mission statement, and our objectives. What we found out initially was somewhere along the way, and I don't have history on why, it didn't seem like a lot of folks really have a history on why, our mission really, it expanded to this a broader whole community approach, and then it narrowed back down the last time our vision was looked at. Back was really a hazmat focused mission. So we looked at that and said, well, why? Can't we do both? And that's really where we started our conversation. So in your packet, you should have a document that says vision statement, and then some goals and objectives below that. So over the course of 4 meetings, monthly basically, since we started this group, we really tried to hammer through what do we want our mission and vision and objectives to look like. And then more importantly, or equally as important, can we measure our objectives? Are we seeing things that we can decide, yeah, that's something we've accomplished, we can measure it somehow. So that's our attempt here at the bottom of it. So really what I'd like to do is, how do you folks read this, read the mission statement, and let's just go through and see if you think we're on the right track, and we can find something that we might need to do before we move forward. And then we'll get into more of the details of the subcommittee, but it's really important to start with this first. So any comments or questions on the vision or the mission statement? questions, comments, concerns, suggestions to modify?
Mike McGinley, Beaver County, Commissioner. I think this is great to go back and broaden this thing out, especially representing all, or trying to represent the small counties. But this hazardous stuff, I mean, I've been a firm believer about the only way a guy can get that hazmat stuff in small counties is to have the phone number of the big guys. There ain't any way to do it. But when you get into this all disasters and emergencies, of standing up these type 3 teams, having DES being the contact person for all these emergencies, I think is critical. You take, here just a couple weeks ago, in Beaverhead County, of a lost hunter they can't find. Most counties can handle that thing, except this guy came from Kalispell, worked for Plum Creek or whatever up there, a school teacher, well-liked. Try to manage that kind of a search when you get hundreds of Kalispell visitors coming to Wisdom, Montana, and to house them and things like that. So that's locally, we had enough there, but instead of the type 3 local teams start doing, but we got a hold of DES, started looking for this kitchens and stuff to take care of these people. Those are the kind of things that I think fits into this thing here of emergencies for small counties that do need the help and resources. So I mean, if you redo that and put it in that kind of context, I think it's great. I think the state's really pretty well set up for the gigantic messes that we can get into at local levels and stuff. But there's a lot of that stuff that happens day in, day out. Just fit very well.
Any other comments or questions on vision? All right, we'll move on into the goals there. We tried to keep our goals from running away on us. We started out with base 3 times, and we pared them down to base 4. So if we could just take a look, Judy, now we're on goals. If you've got questions on the phone.
Okay, thank you. I just, just a question on number 1, I clearly see the 13 important in supporting LEPC. I just wonder, oversight or overseeing, how was the committee thinking in terms of overseeing the LEPC when I think our county entity really responsible for that, or am I missing something? This is Bonnie, and I'd like to take a shot at answering that. One of the things the steering committee did looking at this, and I come from a regulatory world, and I said, let's go back and look at the law and any provisions that we are, about what we as a SERC are supposed to do. And Delilah made reference to the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, and that is the statute, the federal statute, that essentially establishes SERCs and requires that states have them, and it establishes the need for the LEPCs, and it actually uses the term supervise. We didn't use that same term because we certainly want to be partners with our counties. But technically, the federal law says we're supposed to supervise you, the LEPCs. I don't know if you're on an LEPC, but anyway, that's the way it reads. And so we strongly want to support them. We want to make sure the LEPCs are stood up, that they're functional, that they have the membership they're supposed to have, and meet the needs of the communities and the citizens. So that's why that says what it says. And I think that's a great explanation. I just wonder if we shouldn't reference that, if we could, just, from a county. And maybe I'm on the SERC, I'm not necessarily representing an LEPC per se, I go to Richmond County. So I don't know what other LEPC folks think, but I think it would be important to maybe reference that in case the county got a little funny about that. I don't know, maybe it's not a big issue. All right, thank you. Steve,
I was just going to cite the U.S. code. It's 42 U.S.C. 11,001.
So what we'll do on that first bullet, if it works for everybody, we'll say support and oversee local emergency
reference in there then, okay?
Bonnie, you,
If others think it's necessary, it might not. I think it's a good idea, we can do that. So, yes, go ahead.
you may have made this, but, not for a certain, approve the LPCs once a year.
We do.
And did you mention that?
I didn't mention it, discussing it, it is part of our, we have on our agenda as well. It's some discussion about,
I think we took care of that.
we took care of that in the spring, yeah, we typically do that in the spring at the meeting. Yeah.
Perhaps that's included in the.
And I know in my travels around the state, talking with, the local DESs and all, I'm talking about the chemical database we use, that the SERC adopted, as our storage place for that information. I get stories about the quality of LEPCs and what people think about them. And I'm just gonna say they're all over the map. Some of them are fully functional, some of them are not. And I'll just leave it at that. But technically, under the law, we are supposed to work with that and stay tuned to the issue and try to help. Patrick?
So instead of modifying the goal with the citation as opposed to putting the objectives to the goal line, we got two of them. I know we haven't gotten it yet, but two of them that tie what we're actually doing. Yeah, according to the MCA.
So if you couldn't hear that on the phone, Patrick's suggestion is that we make that reference, but do it down in the objectives where we talk about working with the LEPC. And that's a good idea from a writing viewpoint. So we'll get it in there.
I agree with Patrick, and in addition to that, I think for any of the other goals or objectives, we can just summarize them either at the beginning or the very end, and then it would be, or you could put your references in the beginning, because when we write operations orders, we always reference basically starting with the highest level of US code and code. It's just a suggestion kind of thing.
Well, you serve on the steering committee, so bring that, we got it.
It's easy to reference every one of them instead of trying to figure out Steve's looking at one that code for second best. It's an idea.
Okay, thank you, that's more, I think that we will see happen.
Okay, any other, thank you for that input, any other items under the goals, comments, questions, concerns, modifications, and goals?
In the verbiage on there, you have just LEPC, is there a chance to include the church also? Where you have much body
According to EPCRA, that's Dale, right?
Yes.
According to EPCRA, the Turks are at the same level as SERC. So the SERC doesn't have any authority over the Turk, just over the LEPCs. So that's my understanding is why the Turks aren't listed here under the SERC. That make sense?
Now, does that mean we don't want to talk to the Turks or assist or anything? No, it doesn't mean that. Maybe there is something that we can say about coordinating with the nations and their Turks, but we certainly could consider that. We just don't want to step outside our authorities and into the nation's authorities.
Can we add that to 3.1 in the objectives? Develop the partnerships and coalitions, initiatives. Maybe more kind of sample and then we can.
Collaborate with the church. But not the words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Those are all really good points.
Okay, other, items on goals?
This is John Turner, I just have one suggestion, which, may or may not make any sense. But on item 2, if we just remove the first 3 words, and be prepared to self-explanatory and inclusive process, and simply say to respond to request.
I think that's easy enough. Nobody,
That's good wordsmithing, thank you.
any other items under goals? Okay, under the objectives. Comments, questions, concerns?
This is Judy again. I'm
subject matter expert as a member of the LEPC. Is that, like, would fire fall under that, or
So the,
just wonder?
the LEPC membership, I'm looking at the summary of, the law that Steve just quoted. LEPC membership must include a minimum local officials including police, fire, civil defense, public health, transportation, and environmental professionals, as well as representatives of facilities subject to the emergency planning requirements group and the media. So, as long as one of those folks is an SME on hazardous material, that was completely thought of the.
I just wonder how many LEPCs would be able to meet that, but that's probably nitpicking, but I just, in looking at the objectives, I think I've said for SERC, we've got a lot of work to do. Yeah, the SERC, the big thing. Yeah, I think that we probably had maybe a drift over time, maybe originally when LEPCs were established, we had that, I'm just guessing, because I wasn't a part of it, but again, we went back to the legal requirements when we looked at this to make sure we were meeting what we're supposed to do. And if currently LEPCs don't have that kind of expertise, then it would be the duty of the SERC to say, you know, you need to look at that and add that to your membership. And maybe there's a way to, you know, help people find those individuals, but that's something that the SERC needs to be seeing is happening.
One thing I have a question on is what's the time frame on this? How often, how frequently are you going to do this evaluation? It doesn't apply to here, and a lot of the rest of them it does.
Once a year, we look at the membership of the LEPCs, so it's at that point we would have to do it. I think that once we finish this and adopt it, and it becomes essentially our marching orders, that the SERC has the duty to get out there and do some communication. We also can pull in some resources that are available from the EPA. They have some wonderful technical assistance, and we can bring them to maybe help with some of that process. And I don't think we should leave that tool on the table when it's there and they're ready, willing, and able to give us some help and help those LEPCs form up the way they should. So it's just something we're going to have to follow up and stay with.
Steve and I are having a sidebar over here. You can explain a little bit about the local responsibility and their requirements.
Okay, Title 10, I think it's 10.3.1208, requires every political subdivision of the state to appoint a local response authority, and that person has to meet the requirements of OSHA 1910-120, which is hazmat operations. If they don't, it falls to the chair of the county commission, but every jurisdiction that I'm aware of has appointed a fire chief or somebody as that local response authority, and there's some requirements or some responsibilities in that position in, I believe it's 10.3.1208. So that could potentially fit that responsibility.
Does that help clarify?
Oh, yeah, it does. It's just, I think, like I said, I just think as a SERC, we have quite a bit of work to do. Because I think I felt like this really lays out a more work with the LEPC, which I think is great. And I think we'll have to do some education. Thank you, you're absolutely correct, and this version that we're working on is definitely more rigorous in that involvement.
Another question I have is, so over the years, I think the state DES did a good job of supporting the CERC. I'm just thinking, you know, as we use the term CERC as kind of a broad term, none of us individual members are going to go out and do a lot of the work. And so I think it's wondering from a convenience standpoint, for the search, if there, perhaps be, I wouldn't say a better communication, but, a point person identified within the agencies that we know that we have a question about it, that we can call and say, okay, this person is responsible for this part of the certain location.
I think you're actually touching on some of the same things the steering committee looked at, was like, well, there's a lot of work here, who's gonna get it done? And that's where, as we move into the next part of our conversation, so we're talking about subcommittees of the CERC, and is there a steering committee in place that can kind of field these questions and make sure that the work is getting done, passed to the right agency, and followed up on, because this body only gets together, every 6 months or so. So you're right, it's not necessarily the committee table that you feel that implement this work. But we put the right structure in place, we can probably make a lot more progress through something. Is that helpful a little bit?
I don't want to do that way,
Get some sleep, have a plan. Does that help? We're gonna keep talking here today, okay?
So any other questions on objectives? Comments?
We see people reading for those on the phone, I hope that you're looking too, so I'm gonna give it a few minutes.
See any other questions coming up? So what our side of the conversation over here is, this isn't marked as a voting item here today, so we want to make sure that folks have the opportunity to look at this a little bit more carefully. Provide comments, you can send those comments to Lieutenant Disaster Emergency Services, Julie Okeson, would be the best contact. We'll get her email address out to everybody. But please take some time to, scrub this. It's been a work in progress, like I say, several meetings over several months, and a lot of us trying to make this what we think would be a good roadmap ahead. With that, I don't want to move, I don't want to wait until next spring to implement this. I think we'd be in a good position to give a deadline for feedback and then ask for an email vote unanimously to get this adopted.
Yeah, I agree that that's a good process.
Yeah, just maybe one comment on that 3.1 of this Mako Midwinter Conference of County Commissioners, DES. Understand that's the even years, or non-legislative years, so that'll be coming up again, I do believe, in Great Falls, February.
Okay. Anything else? So, okay, look for an email coming out of the DES. I'll give you Jaylee's, email, you can send comments, we'll put a deadline on it. After that, we'll have another version, and we'll put that out for an email vote. Is that acceptable? Does anybody object? I see heads nodding. Anyone on the phone? Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so understand that's not adopted just yet, but that's kind of the place of the roadmap we're working on, the draft roadmap. As you mentioned, the conversation then turns to how we're going to get all this work done. The group tried to look at these objectives, how we're going to measure them, and the existing subcommittees of the CERC, and thought, okay, what's missing? What do we need to add? So there were 6 subcommittees that the group thought of. The steering subcommittee, which is essentially the group of folks that was getting together revising this vision statement, we'd like to full SERC to take a look at that, to see if we met the intent of the motion that was made in the last year. Is that, are we meeting your expectations? And if so, we'll continue on with that steering subcommittee. The other groups, of course, we already have a hazmat subcommittee in place. In IMAC, mutual aid subcommittee, there was a lot of conversation out there. We really need to have two subcommittees, IMAC and mutual aid, so we combine those into one. The steering committee looked at that and said, there's probably enough crossover work there. We could probably blend those. EAS and IPODs, that would be another group. A new one that folks probably have little insight on. The MERF and the ESF subcommittee. So the MERF is the Montana Emergency Response Framework, and ESF stands for Emergency Support Function. This is basically the state level response plan that crosses over all of the state agencies that have a role in a response. This is a document that needs to be finished. It's pretty skeletal right now, and a working group's already been put in place over the last few months to kind of start putting meat on bones and beef up this state level response plan. All the same, that group should probably be taking their work to a body like this and sharing what is the state level response plan when it comes to how they release information, how public health does business, where DOT fits in, of course DES's role, and allow this body, as the representatives of the whole community of the state, a chance to look at that and say, hey, you missed something, or we had wonderfully did a perfect job, which I'm sure was so that was a new subcommittee. We thought maybe we should bring that up. And then there's been some conversations over the last year as well as figuring out the relationship with the Senior Advisory Committee, the SAC, which is the group responsible for looking at Homeland Security funds, and maybe bringing them underneath the SERC as a subcommittee as well. So those were the 6 groups that we looked at, and I guess probably the best way to go through this would be one by one, have some conversation on whether or not these are appropriate. Perhaps throw out some suggestions for chairmanship and see where the conversation leads. Okay, sounds good. So we'll start off with the first one there, the SERC steering committee. Again, membership, myself, Bonnie, Patrick, Tony, Jake, Bruce. Yeah, I went through the list earlier. University, and I missed somebody. My memory's not what it was. Oh, here we go. I got him. All right. So, a little bit of time for discussion on the steering committee. Is it meeting your needs based on the motion that was made in the last steering committee?
Since I made the motion. I think I was coached by a citizen. I think they did. I think we went through a lot of the first product that came out of that group, and I'll just tell you, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of maybe discussion outside of people's comfort level in terms of whether we do just exactly what the law says, or do we do what we think we should be, and where's the authority to do those different things. And I think the decent product that's come out that sets a good stage for the CERC meeting. I think most people think it probably should be, and helping to bring a lot of different pieces together. So I think it's good discussion and work that took place out there. A little outside of some people's comfort zones, not as uncomfortable as some wanted it, but it's important.
I don't know who you're talking about, really. Okay. Any other?
I think on the makeup of that group is fine to start, and one of the things that committee might want to do is put in place. Okay, we're passing a mic. Yeah. Okay, thank you, we've got a mic in place. Okay, this is Dale Perrin, and I was just saying that, the makeup of the steering committee, that might be something that you want to put some guidance in place as far as the SERC is make sure that the work of that steering committee and the makeup of that committee has some guidance, so that, I mean, it might be fine to ask for volunteers every time, but how often does it change? That kind of stuff might be an important piece of that committee.
I think you're spot on for all of the committees. There's gotta be a bookings on membership, what's a good cross-section of representatives, what's a good number to work with versus I think that's a broader comment, you're right, on every subcommittee, I think you need to decide if they can be year-long appointments. Do they have to be certain members? I think honestly, we could probably reach out and draw in some people who are members of the CERC, sit on these subcommittees. And then of course, a lot of times we'll just report back to the that would be my suggestion. Try to keep between 5 and 7 people, allow that chairman to make sure they feel comfortable with that cross-section of goals, and provide those lists of membership to the body, us, and we approve. That would be my suggestion. Thoughts on that?
This is Jake Regard. I think the amount of people that have been going to the steering committee is about the right amount. And I think Delilah is, I don't know if she's the official chairman yet, but I've been nominated to be the chairman. She's been doing a really good job keeping it focused and not dragging out for well more than the time we need to, because some of the subjects can get really detailed. I think there's been a lot of progress in the meetings that I've attended.
Well, the co-chairs can appoint, so I don't think we need a motion. I think all the discussion is important, so that your co-chairs know exactly what you're thinking, so, so I don't think we have to have a vote on it, just, we need to hear what you're concerned about. We can make those appointments. So I'm appointing Delilah as the chair.
No, I just want to make sure, didn't we just vote on the, on John?
But that was, we did. Probably didn't need to, we could have appointed, you're right. Technically, it is the co-chair's duty to do this appointment. I would take an informal vote, but it's, we didn't mark these as voting items, but technically we don't need to, so.
So based on conversation,
Based on conversation? Okay.
well, if nobody would object to it, I would think it is, the chair of the steering committee. Be withdrawn anything else.
I think it's a perfect role for the program we're going to support these departments for you.
Okay.
Can't do it.
Take a minute, all right. Moving on to the second of the 6 committees, the hazmat subcommittee. Sounds like that's well established, it's in place. We've got a new chairperson there for John. I think there's probably, anybody have any discussion on that before I move on? Seems appropriate. The next one, the third of the 6, the IMAC and mutual aid committee. Discussion on that group and who would be an appropriate chairperson there. One idea we had was looking at Bruce with the NRC. Bruce, are you still on the line? Or Bruce wasn't on the line? Hey, he's not here, I think we appointed him. Some conversation though, open it up to the room for discussion on who would be a good fit to, or is this recording? We already played, Bruce is the chair. Okay, any comments, concerns, questions on that?
Okay, we're passing the puck.
So I guess I would say that by aspirants, GNRC can now be all hands on business, and transition, you may not have the support of the state board anymore. And I hate to see them in that spot and not have the support of the agency. So if they can work out, if they good with it, then I think we should.
And if not, let's talk about what qualifications someone should have to play that role. What kind of person are we asking have as chair of that committee. We're all happy to keep Bruce because of his history. He's doing such an amazing job. But if not, what are we looking for? Commissioner, did you have something to say?
Dave Mason. And I just throw maybe not the name, but that would be my suggestion. Some, at least from the background I come from of this, I think the fire service training school or that connection to get into it would be, if not chair, thanks for being on that committee. Welcome, Dave.
Well, we're gonna talk. Actually, I'm retiring from FSTS in May, so I won't be able to represent them. I won't be certainly. So, now my mic went dead, so. Anyway,
Speak up very
I'll speak up.
well.
I think there's a lot of value to somebody that's intimately involved in the all hands on IMT stuff, be the chair, which Bruce has been. So maybe Adrian Beck, or one of the other team coordinators would be good. And I'm not sure who the best role for that would be, but I think it's still be good to be one of the team coordinators or somebody heavily involved in the all hands teams.
Everybody agree that that's a good thing.
Okay, so we'll reach out to Bruce first, and make sure he's so comfortable with that, we'll look for other. Okay, the, fourth of the six committees, EAS and iPods. Ideas on who would be good for this, share this,
Tanya already is.
Tanya already is.
However,
She's
Tanya also took another position within the weather service, and we need to ask her.
Tanya, are you on the line?
Is there anybody from the weather service on the line at this point? I think we had 3 at one point. Oh, you're in the room. Thank you. I was so focused on that. You see, I got this peripheral vision issue today. Sorry. National Weather Service.
All of us look at the top leaders and those who has the next, course that Tanya had suggested. They choose one of the
Okay.
He's been in the process, so he may be a good candidate.
So his name has been put forward for nomination for appointment to serve as that.
So I did serve, so.
Okay.
Tom, are you on the phone?
Tom, are you on the phone still? Okay, we'll handle that. Okay.
Okay, the, fifth of the six subcommittees, the MERT and ESF group. Like I said, this is a group that's been, meeting for the last about 4 months or so, working on revising and updating the Montana Emergency Response Framework, the state level plan. It's been mostly, headed out of the DDS shop, which is appropriate, where the agency kind of tagged with making sure there is a state plan in place. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about where this makes sense. I would think somewhere in the DDS shop will allow for discussion.
That's what somebody in the shop is working on, or have that in the future.
As a document that Mark was last signed in 2012 by Governor Schweitzer, it made the assignments to state agencies to handle certain emergency support functions. That's what the committee is spending a lot of time working on, is getting those plans in place, those emergency support function descriptions in place, building those interagency relationships so that a primary agency under the plan can contact their support agencies and work through that process and bring someone to an incident. And we're doing that, and I guess I too believe that it belongs to TDS.
We'll get a body tag with that and keep carrying that up. And then the last item, probably one of the most important chair subcommittees, I believe, that would be adopted underneath the SERC, the Senior Advisory Committee. A lot of responsibility on the staff, and I think there's a number of folks in the room here that have served both on the SERC and the SAC over the last several years. I was one of those I think this committee would be doing is we're taking a good close look now at the guidelines and the rules when we submit applications, and establishing that criteria well in advance of an application guidance even going out, let alone applications coming in. So that basically it's as unbiased of a process as we can possibly put in place. This is something that I would really, really encourage local representation on a group like this, while trying to avoid some of the conflict of interest of having people who are dropping applications in the bucket also being on the committee that's setting the criteria. We really got to be careful of that. Our steering committee talked at the last meeting quite a bit about this one and came up with the idea of maybe we approach NACO and see if Mr. McGinley would be kind enough to chair this committee and start looking at these rules and regulations and rules and criteria ahead of time. So maybe I throw that out to the group.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Turnabout is fair play, right?
So honestly, though, for the group, this is a very important committee. They do a lot of really great work. Homeland security ideas or comments on the idea of how to make people.
I think it would be good, I said the same idea before you said it, it would be good whether it's somebody from NACO or somebody from MIA, some, an elected official from someone in Montana, is a good role for the chair.
You know, I want to throw in a comment, and I've served on this committee, and as someone looking at those applications when they come in, I have to say that it's very difficult to make choices if someone's talking about radios. I'm no expert on radios, but there's an application to buy them, and they're all different. There might be 14 applications that have radios in them, and they're not all asking for the same kind and whatnot. I would like to see somebody who really knows about that, able to serve on a committee and saying, you're gonna buy radios, they have to meet within this list or this type or something like that. And pick any piece of equipment or subject matter that same issues out there. And that would be very, very helpful if we could ask for that kind of guidance and get that subject matter expertise. Can we do all that at once? Maybe not. But I certainly in the long run would like to see that guidance be a part of the application material up front. As much of that as we can do. So I don't know how much of that we can pull off quickly, but I feel that would be very helpful.
Bonnie, I think that's a great idea. And kind of going back to post 9/11, I thought that, and I might have the terminology wrong, but I thought that was the whole objective of this interoperability, whatever it's called. You know, but that was to make sure that all the agencies and so forth were all communicating on the same platform. But anyway, it was planned back in this okay.
Maybe
Expectation and there will be discussion during that, I understand. So please feel free to still get up, move around, get more lunch, whatever, but let's start.
Okay, thanks. So, just for those of you on the phone, just to clarify, my name is Pat Warren, and I'm the Director of Emergency Management in Gallatin County. And basically, lunchtime presentation, walking through a discussion that started off in Gallatin County, kind of walking through that discussion, how it came to this concept that I'm going to pitch to you. And the key is this is a concept to identify or to address a risk that we see as missing the capability to respond to here in the state. This is discussion. Feel free to pitch out any comments or questions at any point. And once again, it's a concept in its infancy. So some things might not have been figured out yet, like a lot of it. But we're going to pitch the concept and see what people think about this. So down in Gallatin County, we review a certain portion of our emergency management plan. Every year we do a certain portion of it on a rotational basis. And search and rescue came up this year. And so we were reviewing our search and rescue annex, which includes wilderness search and rescue as well as urban search and rescue. And the urban search and rescue piece was pretty skimpy on what those resources were to respond to something requiring that type of And so we went through it, did our thing, and then people got talking. When we do all our planning, we talk about commodity flow studies earlier. We base our plans and our response capabilities based on our risks. And this is actually the state's current risk analysis and the hazard mitigation plan. And I don't know if you can see a super wide can actually see it here, but I believe number 2 is earthquakes, and it's got a variety of different items in there. And this is actually very similar to ours. We have earthquakes number 2 in Gallatin County, with wildfires just due to frequency, number 1 above that. And so as we're talking about search and rescue, one of the things that popped in my mind is our capability to respond to something that has some sort of collapsed building, people trapped in it or unknown if people are in it. And when we went through our risk analysis, there's a lot of things we've identified in the state that we have capacity to respond to if it occurs. And I'm not addressing that how do we mitigate it, how do we plan for it. There's a lot of things we do to mitigate a lot of the risk we face. But on the response side, there were a bunch of things that we didn't really have a good response capability to deal with it when it occurs. One of those being earthquake, and then we looked at, what do you do in a tornado when the building get knocked down? Same thing in a dam failure. You have buildings that get flooded out and crushed. Landslide, some sort of explosion of terrorism, or any weapons that you have anything to worry about afterwards. So all those kind of tied together. How do we deal with collapsed buildings? And it was pretty snippy on how we deal with that. And so just to kind of clarify, I mentioned urban search and rescue. But generally speaking, when you talk about urban search and rescue, this is the capacity you're talking about. You're talking about the capacity to search collapsed buildings, either physically, electronically, or with canine. You're talking about the ability to rescue people that might be trapped in the buildings, various constructions. You're talking about medical support for people that you can't typically access because they're trapped in something. You're talking about the ability to assess the structures of the building, and to shore buildings up so it's safe to do search operations or rescue operations. As well as you're talking about the ability to monitor hazardous conditions for the rescuers, those that are trapped, and mitigate something that might be building that you haven't thought of yet. And then all those kind of tie together with the fact that it's probably a confined space, and you're working with heavy equipment to conduct it. Some teams also do like water rescue type stuff, but that's not really our brainchild. So we started talking about this in our community. How do we take care of a situation that requires those skills? And the answer was, there's not a lot. So if you can see that up there on the screen, it might be hard to see. You see Montana in purple. There's no organized, structured urban search and rescue capability in the state. There's some people that have gone to training, and some places have certain little, like I know the fire training school has a path of cribbing and shoring equipment, and they use different training curriculum, stuff like that. There's no real structured capacity to respond in a formal organized team that's trained these other issues. So we talked about FEMA urban search and rescue teams and national teams you see, and we all know our closest ones is Seattle, Salt Lake, and Denver, and that's what we think about. But there's been several incidents lately. Think about the Oso mudslide in Washington State that occurred about 2 years ago. They posted a FEMA USAR team. They couldn't deploy it for 2 days because they got hung up in a bureaucratic box checking issue where not everything was lined up and they couldn't release the team, federal assets. And it seems like you hear that a lot. And an interesting thing that I discovered when I was researching this, the state of California hosts 8 FEMA USAR teams. They also have 9 what they call regional and urban search and rescue teams. And the reason they have those is they have a different mission. They are designed to deploy in an hour and provide that stopgap between the incident occurring until a federal asset can be arrived. And when we talk about where our federal assets are, one, they have 12 hours once they get authority to launch. And then you got to take that authority time. As much as we want to say it's going to be smooth, it seems like something always happens. And so we use the planning assumption. We should plan in 72 hours to do a FEMA USAR team up here, particularly depending on where you're at. So then we started doing research on what other resources exist. And we had always done our planning with Spokane County had a regional team that they supported locally. And so I started talking to them, and we were like, well, how do we access you? And they were like, well, we can do the EMAC thing back and forth, and we came back to the same issue of we're trying to fill a stopgap. How do we get something quickly deployed and on the ground? And it didn't work that well. So we're actually, our county, working on an agreement directly with Spokane County to directly order that resource. And then we learned that the state of Idaho actually has a regional USAR program where they host 3 regional USAR teams. One in Coeur d'Alene, one in Boise, and then one's jointly hosted between Idaho Falls and Pocatello. And so we're like, Pocatello and Idaho Falls pretty close to us. So we called and talked to them, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, God, love to help you. And then we had the same discussion of how do we make it happen quick. And they were like, well, you know, we can do the EMAC thing, but we're just not confident it's going to meet the objective you're trying to do by the time you do all the negotiations. And they're like, but we're in Jason County, we can do a direct agreement with you. So we're working on an agreement with them. And we had the same discussion with Boise, and we're going to work on a direct agreement with them. So then after talking to them some more, well, what capacity do you have, what do you design to do? All these teams are really designed with the same goal. Get out the door in under an hour, try to save those that can be saved right away, and try and fill that gap between initial response capability and FEMA USAR team getting in there for the extended duration. And they're all very similar in the amount of people they're using, and the amount of training maintained. It wasn't quite as bad as you might expect compared to like the full FEMA USAR team. You got to keep in mind their scope of what they're trying to do. So then I was sitting there thinking, well, maybe Montana could support some sort of internal capacity in a similar fashion to what the hazmat teams have. So we kind of moved forward with these planning assumptions. So first one is the longer it takes to rescue someone from a collapsed building, the higher the mortality rate will be. The physics involved with lifting, moving, and reaching collapsed buildings is complex. You know, once you get past what you can easily get to with hand tools, when you start reaching stuff, moving stuff, the physics involved is much more complex than people think. We're not trained for that. I don't think there's really organized capacity to deal with that. And we don't want to make the situation worse. Figure 72 hours for federal assistance, and we don't really have the capacity in the state. So we came up with this problem statement, and the problem statement is, how does Montana safely bridge the response gap from building collapse between initial response capabilities and federal assistance for the citizens of Montana? So moving forward with that, we had some discussions. Talked to our county, hey, is this something that makes sense for Gallatin County to try to do? And a lot of people like, yeah, this does. This is a response capability that you're hired us for, you really don't have a strong capacity for in the state. And so then we reached out to some of the other jurisdictions around the state, and some of them we never really heard back from. They're like, something about. Others were like, no, that makes sense. We'd like to discuss this further. It makes sense to explore this and see if this is something that Montana can easily do. So basically, the concept in very basic terms is for Montana to look at establishing a regional urban search and rescue system here in Montana that's based on the state hazmat team model. You know, so you get some host agencies and host components in different jurisdictions. That when something happens, they come together and have that capacity. So what this would look like, and this is based very close to what Idaho's done, very similar to what California has done. The concept is small teams around the state, a couple different jurisdictions, about 20 rostered people, so they're trained with the concept of when something happens, hopefully each post can pop up 10 people come together and meld up and deal with they'd be equipped to initiate action on their own, but the reality is sustained action that incident until the team arrives. It's going to take everybody that's hosting one of these teams to come together and sustain that. And then what I really got to looking at, and I got to walk closer, I can't read it. What does the team look like and consist of? And all of them have some sort of management capacity. Well, SERC has spent this time on developing these type 3 incident management teams. We have that capacity in the state already. The SERC component, all the teams that people
risk
Can you
factor.
bring back to the mic, please?
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
thank
Bill.
you.
I need glasses, I can't see. Okay, so the next one is the search component. It's typically made up of two different things. The first one being dogs. We have a lot of dogs that are sent trained in Montana that just need to be rescoped a little bit. We have that capacity. Searchers trained to use the tools don't have that. Specialized tools to go with them don't have that. The rescue component, people that know how to reach, move, lift, operate the equipment to make access, don't have that. Medical capacity to care for people that are injured and to care for the rescuers, we have that. That's it. Same thing with hazmat capability. We have state hazmat teams to fill in that capacity. And then structural specialists, all the teams have structural engineers. We have structural engineers. I know my community has them. We just did the FEMA training for that. They're all about participating in self-housing and using those skills. So that's kind of the concept of what we're proposing to look at. So rough concept of what might this look like, and rough concept, multiple ways something theoretically to be achieved. In theory, hypothetically, it's 2015, we could create a working group to get together to define the project scope, verify whether it's feasible in Montana or not, and if it's feasible, to develop a package proposal. If it's feasible, then it can move forward in 2016 and submit an application to the Senior Advisory Committee for funding to seek the equipment that's needed and to seek the initial training for the members of the teams. And so, you know, I was got to bring this up. Okay, I'll come back to it. And then, you know, in theory, if we got funding in 2016, then around the beginning of the federal fiscal year in October, we can start beginning this process. And, I know what my statement was. The initial discussion is that, you know, if we start down this road and we submit an application to some sort of group of agencies that agree to host it, that those agencies would agree, we understand this is seed money. There's no guarantee of continuing funding, and those agencies will keep the cost for maintaining and continuing with the understanding of this one statement. That was exciting. So if we get funding, then we can begin in October 2016, equipping and training these teams and getting up and going. Then in 2017, we'll pass another Homeland Security grant application. So in theory, if we didn't get funding in 2016, we could try again, or if we split across 2 years, we could do that. And then in 2018, if everything went right, we could have this concept up and running and some proof of concept to go to the intern committee or an intern committee in 2018 and say, this is what we've achieved, this is the response gap that we're filling, we've achieved this that we have in the state, and we would like to look at the legislature creating a funding mechanism similar to hazmat teams to maintain this in the future. Hopefully, the legislature says, yeah, that makes sense, and we move forward with the committee bill in 2019 legislature. It could also come from the other side using government's budget. And there's different ways we could skin that gap. That's the grandiose theme and concept of how we theoretically could move forward with some sort of concept. It could be an ad hoc thing where the jurisdictions think it's a good idea, move forward and come together in some sort of consortium and do this on their own. Or it could be something where the SERC says, yeah, this is a good thing to kind of move forward, and they endorse it as kind of a SERC endorsed project. All hypothetical, all proposed end state of established system for the citizens in Montana, or provide building collapse response until federal assistance can arrive. And all of those pictures there, for those of you that aren't on the phone, those are collapse building responses that occur here in Montana. And those are just the pictures that were easy for me to get. So it happens. We've been lucky in terms of getting additional capacity to deal with what has occurred, but it's all been luck. And we have the risk. So that's kind of my spiel and my concept. And I'd love to hear some feedback or comments.
I got the buck. If anybody's coming.
Everybody's got a thought.
Hey Patrick, this Master Sergeant Jake on you. I know some people don't know this, but in 2018 we're doing our next Vigilant Guard. And that's when we're slated the full statewide exercise. Last one was 2009. I was actually on the ground, not working here in Fort Harrison, in Missoula. But your timeline would actually line up really well to get more involvement with the exercise, because it'll probably be more likely an earthquake exercise in Montana. Not that I know that for sure, but you would actually probably be able to start exercising the teams and in the Homeland Response Force team out of Utah. They have a search and rescue team, and I have a really good briefing I can email you, Patrick, too, if you want. They'll give you all their capabilities. It actually might really help a lot. So I think the timeline's perfect, and we worked really well. You get real-time good training. I went to the Vigilant Guard exercise in Alaska in 2014. A lot of search and rescue, a lot of rubble pile training, a lot of mannequins put in underneath really well-established rubble piles and evaluated search and rescues using everything, equipment, all the decontamination that there was involved with oil spills from the train and wherever. It was a big learning experience for me. So we'll be doing the same in 2 years.
That's a great comment. I guess one other thing I should put off the top of my main mind as we were talking. The California model, one of the main things about that makes a lot of sense, is where they're getting people from. A lot of public safety people are also heavily tied to public works. So they're using a lot of public works personnel on those teams, which makes a lot of sense because they have a lot of resources. They're doing a lot of compliance, trench type stuff anywhere in a lot of those departments. They have the heavy equipment, which is operating it. So that's another part of this deeper concept of instead of just trying to do public safety, this is much more of a community tie there.
Patrick, I have a question. I'm not a certain number. When you mentioned 20, I believe the FEMA Type 3 USAR typing comes out about 22 to 24. Is that kind of where you're coming up with that number, or just based off that?
All the numbers I saw are right about 29 people. And part of that, when I say 20 people, some folks are more of the specially trained people in terms of the searchers and rescuers and that sort of stuff, with the content management, the concept of you can plug in and add that people. You can, plug in some of those other specialized things that aren't, like the structural engineers, not necessarily counting them. That's one of the things where they're getting the primary training, this mission separate, if that makes sense. So it's probably the same ballpark. And, we threw 20 out there just off of discussion with the assumption that, you train 20, you can 10 out more maybe, with the understanding just what can realistically be achieved throughout the whole bearing on the state. And we figured if the larger jurisdictions could host a 20-person chunk of this overall system, each one can get 10 out, then you've got 30, 40, 50 people in this one where you have about the size of those 15. So that's kind of the concept.
Okay, I had one more question for you, if you don't mind. Did you see in your research any metrics on production rate, essentially? To me, when I think you guys did a great hazardous run in Gallatin County with the modeling impact of an earthquake. And if you had to clear a 10-block area, let's say downtown Bozeman, it happened during a Christmas shopping day on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, it's hard for me to envision how many searches that's going to take to affect it.
I don't have the answer to that. I know I've seen some production rate first, and I don't know how long or say having the production rates. I know they exist now.
Okay, I have no idea.
I just know we don't have anything now.
I've been in the business for a couple of weeks, just a little over 19 years. I've always been in the response side, the wildfires, the floods, and the hazmat stuff, the battery weight, tornadoes, trap people inside buildings and so forth. And we relied over the years heavily on the availability of the direct time. There was an effort starting with the last Vigilant Guard to build some capability with one that we believe very limited. But I believe the Air Guard has tried to build some capability in that arena also, is that correct?
I believe so too, and actually the Air Force has a 341st Missile Wing. I was up there for a tabletop exercise, and they do have some search and rescue capabilities. You know a little bit about that?
So we have some capabilities where there is no. This is John Moss, representing option. We do have some capabilities for search and rescue organically within the wing. However, there is no conformed team. Now, when you're talking about kind of replicating the same structure as the hazmat, there could be some options there for the federal guys through the mutual aid. We may be able to allocate resources that way. So about usually within that first 72 hours. But there are some options. Not real sure about MAG's capabilities when it comes to search and rescue. But we definitely follow up and figure out what they have.
Well, where I was going here is we've got a lot of folks that have really put their heart and soul into trying to play a part in an event like this. And I look back to I wasn't here for the 1935 earthquake, so, but I've done a lot of reading on that, and we're due for another. We are. And we've had such great luck with our regional hazmat concept, that program. It has helped immensely. We don't use them a lot, but when we need them, it's nice to know they're there. And so we're saying that even though we've got a lot of folks out there that have put a lot of energy into trying to have some kind of level of response, I would love to see a system like you're proposing, and using potentially the same agencies as hazmat.
So, and to go back, we do have the 219th Red Horse Squadron in Great Falls, and they have a lot of capabilities with equipment, and personnel, and instructional engineers, and a lot of power generation, water capabilities. And along with our engineer companies in Montana, Army National Guard too, we also have the 83rd CSD. So we have the personnel, we have the equipment. We just don't have, I guess what you go to St. Patrick is a 20-person dedicated team within the Montana National Guard, or a 40-person team. We will have to actually go down to Utah to get that asset, and that is about an 8 to 12 hour response time for the HERF to deploy with their SERC. That's a lot of acronyms, sorry. The Homeland Response Force, and the SERC is a Chemical Enhanced Response Force. Actually, the C is actually an acronym for something else. I want to confuse everybody up. There's a Chemical Enhanced Response Force for buildings. Obviously, there's usually chemical problems, oil, gas, rupture, whatever. People have to be taken care of. Treated. So.
I think the camera that you see so far, that people is they're facing the same situation on the local government side. We have a lot of these pieces, but they haven't been fully brought together in places that we have specialized training goals. Let's fill those in. Let's try to the structure and see if we can build our responsibilities fully. But that's cool. I don't know how something sort of has the ability or interest in endorse stuff like this, or something that's better is kind of root border jurisdictions that want to see something happen. Throw that out there.
Thank you, Patrick. Stay there, we're stuck like come to you, so we'll let you have your lunch in a minute. Does anybody else want to say anything, either on the phone or in the room?
I think just to reiterate what Patrick said,
Hold on,
it seems like
Scott, we're getting you up top.
there it is. It just seems like the framework Patrick was saying is there. It's just a matter of putting it together. Like I envision like the Guard or the Army resources, the Air Force now, whatever. Envision that as like the CST working with municipalities, providing more manpower. So it seems like it's there. It's just a matter of the semantics of things what was really.
Anybody else?
Is that all?
rely on the resources of research responders of the state to help us recover or respond to this kind of incident. So, it's part of the contingency as well.
I mean, I think this might, your action slide talks about the paperwork with PLA, funding opportunities, and so forth. This is another one of those, hang on to the last conversation we had about subcommittees, maybe this is something we ask that for ESF planning group, look at and say, like, what are the state resources, guard, other things, and kind of start there. Maybe have a conversation with that group, and then decide next steps for funding.
So the only consideration is to take into account that the fact that we discussed about and in all reality, we're always coming up with when the Homeland Security stuff comes out, we take time to get into it. Because you won't know it just by but I agree, that's fine. The most well, I think maybe it's something to recommend organically or discussion and then all rolling and come back to and cut ball certain one latch on. And I'm good with, answering all of your
Would be in our best interest, just looking ahead. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I think that.
Would it be worth something having bring it up as far as the hazmat teams? That's kind of where the larger departments are. I would guess would probably most of them. Maybe it's something to bring up in like one of our state meetings and just to get the word rolling. Maybe the same players, maybe not. But
So the jurisdiction of the is that just we want to talk further to the county, by the county. So anyhow, so before they have, say, Makita, we want to talk further.
yeah, but at least get that ball rolling and move the shot.
So it sounds like the plan then at this point is that they expressed is the Murph DSF committee, that we have a new SERC, we start looking at resources, general information about, maybe what the military has, what we know about what qualifications might be. You can do some of that too, but let your hazmat groups and your interested parties also do it. But I think we need to make sure we come back together, perhaps the steering committee could ask for sort of reports, Murph thing, the Murph ESF group, and, Patrick, you would be, and you're serving there, so, on the steering committee, bring information back to the steering committee and decide so that we need to do anything how quickly or something, we can look at that. That way, the information would be shared with the steering committee and allow us to move forward, either whether it's further assignments to subcommittee or something.
There's probably a problem in the role of the but state resources, what resources is, when you have both of the, both of the package look like, and then kind of get this one package look like, what it is.
Sure. I think you're absolutely correct. So, if that seems like a comfortable place over the next few months, and then maybe and a report back, we'll sort of in the spring in our meeting, and if we need something regional, we can sort it out, share it, and communicate further. Does that seem comfortable to folks to take a look at this? I thank you for raising the issue, and appreciate that you recognize this and want to do something about it.
committee at number 4, committee 3, IMAT and mutual aid. Because what Patrick was talking about will require a lot of mutual aid to have it.
It might fit better there.
And if Patrick disagrees with me, please say something. I would
Let's go back to your seat.
this is Jake with the guard. I was just making a recommendation for what Patrick brought up for the urban search rescue to be added to the committee of IMAT and mutual aid.
Rather than the Murphy SF, or we can look at the state resources.
But if we already got the 6 committees, and this is just an idea, because I'm not trying to steer you wrong. If we can really, I can really falls in there, because it would involve a lot of mutual aid.
It's a good place. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna pick back up on, new business number 1, we're talking search steering committee proposals. All right, so we reviewed the vision, mission, goals, objectives, and talked a little bit about the proposal for subcommittees. The item I want to talk about next is the actual structure of the survey. We spent a lot of time, the first couple steering committees talking about, is this the best use of our time? Coming in at 10 o'clock every 6 months, go through lunch, here's some committee reports, some presentations, wrapping up in the mid-afternoon. Is that how we want to continue the format and the agenda of the search? And as we got thinking about the steering committees, and the time commitment, not the steering committees, the subcommittees, and the time commitment that those folks are gonna need to do some work, we thought about maybe remapping the structure of this day. Basically allowing some time in the morning from, 8 to noon, or whatever we want us to start at, 9 to noon, and allow those subcommittees to get together, dedicated twice a year, to actually roll up their sleeves and do some actual work in these subcommittees. Break for lunch, and then come back together as a committee of the whole to sort of hear any reports out, vote on any items that might be issued. So it might be a little longer of a day, but it would be kind of cutting the day in half from a working session in the morning to advisory oversight in the afternoon. So I'll throw that out there for discussion, see what folks think about that.
Buck, please. So a slate, I like that concept. I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe a slight twist on that, particularly for those traveling. If you made a 2-day meeting overnight, say at travel, that would be considered. If you do a full day, a lot of times people want to spend the night in one end of it, particularly if they're coming from, more than that kind of distance away. So maybe that makes sense that you do, start midday, you have the committee stuff. And then that also just, you want to go and offset over there on stuff, we work on your own day, whatever, and then the next morning you can have the business meeting and the serve and do what you got. It involves overnight, those that aren't here, and then it needs, you're here for 2 days. Not yet.
Comments or thoughts on that?
Just looking around the room, what is the problem?
I can go either way as long as we do have a committee meeting. Just come all that way for a couple hours, But either way, and we're all the way out here, either way, it's kind of nice.
Okay. Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, that's all I'm just looking at.
One more. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think that we would get a lot more work done. I like that thought process. However, I would like to see it kept into one day. That we, because it doesn't have to be done on my end, but either way, I like the whole idea that it should be fine and take a lot of things, get a lot more done.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I was just looking around the table, I guess I forgot the people on the phone, this travel commitment of, everybody around the table isn't too far away right now. A couple 100 miles here, but, and that's a good 8 to 5s or whatever, if you've got to travel both times, it might be 2 nights, so. I'm not entirely against having an overnighter like Patrick talked about myself.
I kinda like the overnight contact just because it allows the steering, or the head of each committee to put together a report in the summary, instead of trying to throw together a summary what you did over lunch. It gives you more time to really think through what really should be presented to the task versus what is just tabled for the rest of the meeting. But if there's a strong desire to do it, then either way, we're gonna see what we're working on.
If we saw the discussion, I think that we look at a modification for 2 days with the work group in the afternoon of day 1 and the business meeting in the morning of day 2. Most would be out here by noon, and let's get back on the road. Okay, and then just to circle back to the old business items that we promised to come back to, the money flow study, we talked about earlier. Kind of knowing the plan for maybe direction where to go. Think that flow study can be tucked into the steering committee and look at the portion of the planning for the state. I'm gonna make it mouthful, so I'm trying to just, drag it out.
It always got to depend on the grant timing. No, I think that's fine, just depends on the timeline of what, identify what needs to happen.
Okay, so what we'll do, what DES will do for this group, we will get an email out to CERC, and the chair we talked about these meetings, perhaps summarizing today's conversation on the CERC and the future of CERC, along with an invitation for those chair people to attend on the October 27th meeting of the steering committee, call in or otherwise. And if that doesn't work for folks, we'll take it all the time. So we'll plan on October 27th for those who are the chair people get together, unless there's community conflict. We'll get a summary out to the CERC. Does that work? Okay. I think that's it for what I had on item 1 of the day.
Go right into item 2.
Sure. Item 2 is status of certain membership appointments. Every year, actually, I don't know if Dan does it, every how often? 3 years, certain appointments expire, and that's the situation that we're in right now. Where I think it's October 1st, technically our certain appointments expire. Talked with the governor's office to see, are we, I'll put the vote now since we're past our deadline. They assured us that the appointment on the CERC, we're all still in good standing. We are all still the appointed representatives of the organizations we represent until told otherwise. So they are working diligently on getting CERC appointment letters out and making sure that the right folks are represented on the CERC, but they just pass that along. So everybody is still in good standing, and your renewal letter should be coming soon.
And if you have not gone onto the governor's board and committee website and applied to be reappointed, and you want to be, then you need to do that. And if they have not communicated with you and handled that with you, that's the mechanism for all of the boards and commissions and gubernatorial appointments.
Questions on that? 4 years.
Is it governor's one, right? Yes, it is.
Can you repeat that again?
Oh, okay. If you go to the State of Montana website, or the governor's website, you'll see that there's a button for his boards and commissions. And that's where you apply to be appointed. So, yes. If you're with a state agency, they've already communicated, should have communicated with all the state people. And that part should be finished. But the rest of the appointees, if you're representing a certain industry or something or association, and you're to be continuing, or if you're doing a new person, have your membership, have that person fill that paperwork out.
And then item 3 on the agenda here, status of emergency support function activities. We kind of talked about this already a little bit. That ESFs planning documents that state agencies use to plan for what kind of response, what kind of support they have in response. We've been doing a lot of work with that group over the last several months. We started out in the beginning of the year with only 2 of our 15 emergency support functions plans signed and in place. And I think we're down to, down to 2 more. We're only 2 away from having all 15 signed. So it's been a tremendous amount of work that's gone into beefing up the state's response plan. And again, I already talked about how important I think it is to have that through the representatives and subcommittees, so we'll be back into that. But a lot of work's been done in that area. That's all I had to say on that. Yes,
Quick question, can we see the final copies, could you circulate them?
absolutely. Actually, you want to send them out as well.
If they're available on the website.
Okay, does anybody, before we move away, does anybody have any questions or comments about the ESFs and how that all plays out? Okay, we'll make them available. Okay. All right, well, that leaves us with the next item, number 5, under new business, hazmat team approval. Sherry, can you step up to the microphone? You can come up here or you can work over there. Doesn't make any difference.
Every year, state hazmat teams, fire chiefs certify that their firefighters of the hazmat team are trained. And then the SERC needs to approve those every year. I did not make, if anybody wants to see, and what it is that they list SERC members by name and by their training, whether they're a technician or operations trained. Then they also certify that all the equipment and the state hazmat trailers is in good working order. So that's the certifications that we have here. When a team does get deployed, I do check when they come in for reimbursement that they were certified. So that people that can go outside the jurisdiction of that particular jurisdiction's hazmat team. So does anybody want to look at these? Otherwise, I'm going to ask for approval.
That's true. We have this as a voting item as we do the next one. And so we need a motion.
I'll move to have that team certification.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? Does everybody?
Does all of you guys know the teams? Or you go through them? Okay, it is Kalispell, Missoula, Great Falls, Helena, Bozeman, and Billings, and the respective fire departments.
There you go. Thank you. You rattled that one off. Good. Okay. And this, okay, and one more time, this is, if they can operate in their own jurisdiction, but they can also cross boundaries, and that's where we would see it.
Correct. They act as the state of Montana hazmat team outside of their jurisdiction.
And is that when we see the request to pay for?
That is
items?
correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
You probably have all seen those over the last year or so, and a request to approve that expenditure, and that's what this is about. Okay, any discussion at all? Okay, seeing none, let's have a vote on this. All those in favor of approving this listing? Say aye. Okay, anybody opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, you're approved. All right, have the approval. So you have the next item.
It's the billing rates, and this has been sent to you, and I think it's probably in your packet too. But every year we look at, this is the billing rates that hazmat teams will use when they go outside their jurisdiction. And this is really important. This past year, we've had several insurance companies question the hazmat teams' rates. And we came back to say, no, this is the state of Montana SERC approved rates. These did not change from last year except for one additional item, and that's under the ALS ambulance. The hazmat teams now are hazmat ALS qualified. And this came up, in a response that, Kalispell made, where the local jurisdiction did not have an ambulance available for the teens. So they sent an ambulance from Kalispell down to support the ALS aspects of the teens.
ALS stands for,
Thank you.
thank you, just in case.
And so, we did not have, a rate, so now on the billing rate is, just in case, we send the ALS an ambulance, we do have a billing rate. So that is what is different from last year.
Now, if you have an ambulance billing rate, wouldn't you want to also have an ambulance staff rate that goes with that, or?
And the reason why is the personnel
Would
are
also
all
be
part of the
hazmat
hazmat teams. Correct, and that's covered up there.
Just making sure.
Oh, okay. The question was, why is there no personnel in the ALS ambulance? Because the personnel is included in the personnel above the technicians, because those are the ALS qualified.
Sherry, if an ALS ambulance is deployed outside the hazmat team, that billing is totally separate.
Correct.
Okay, just
That's all
wanted to
correct.
clarify that.
This is only the ALS ambulance for the hazmat team, not for the victims of the incident. That is totally separate.
And if I may, keep in mind too that when a hazmat team deploys, it is required for them to have an ALS assigned to them. So if you've got folks that have been exposed and so forth, that's going to require additional medical personnel besides the ones that take care of the hazmat. So I just wanted to clarify that again.
So just to add on to this ALS discussion, we're we're real proud of kind of where we're at right now. I think over the last few CERCs I've updated you, telling you about the toximetric protocols and things. We're about 90 days, hopefully 90 days out from the Board of Medical Exam, we're improving the new protocols for the toximetric things. So that comes along with the ALS. ALS ambulance that just adds another incredible component that we've been working hard on. So we're real close to getting that done. So we'll be one of the first states, not the first state, to comply with the new NFPA regulation.
Our first state.
First state, yeah. It's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. That's it? So now you need a vote for us to adopt these regs. All right, do I see a motion for adoption of these regs?
I make that motion.
Okay, all right, will one of you be the second? All right, so, have you got the name? Motion over here? Yeah, Walt's the second. Thank you. Okay, you got that, all right, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. None are opposed, you're unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on the agenda, we're nearly finished, unless we get into an in-depth discussion. So here we are, audience questions and discussions. So, I'll also say that applies to the certain members as well, if there's an item that you want to bring up. So, we'll start with the audience. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to bring up an issue? You're amazingly quiet. All right, thank you. Anybody else have something that needs to come before the CERC? All right, go ahead.
If they made it bigger,
We could, yeah.
Just to briefly go back on the topic that we discussed, and that's on the mission statement. And I know how much work goes into these kinds of documents, and while I know that you want to get this, to fix it and move forward, and even if you were to send this reports is that on the mission statement, where we have the CERC advises the government and so forth. My sense is that it sounds like it's kind of a bureaucratic term or approach. And I think that the CERC really does more than that. And I'm thinking of, okay, I'm so someone now looking at the CERC, you know, is that always just advisory? And I think that needs to perhaps diminish the role of the CERC and the importance of the CERC within the state. And what I would might suggest for future consideration is that that mission statement is actually, I think, more of an objective. So one of the things we do along with all of those things is advise the general and the government and so forth. And trying to develop some other wording that you might suggest for the mission statement. You know, I think that the mission of the CERC is more to ensure the requirements of CFR, whatever it is implemented and maintained and which provides and so on and so forth. So I just throw that out to back to the committee at some point, after this might be pretty clear. I don't think any of us believe that this is a document that is going to stay static anyway. It's going to continue to be a living document that's going to change really strengthen it or so I just wanted to throw that out for considerations.
I think that's a great comment, I really appreciate that. I think that actually, more if we go to our operating concept, that we really broad sending out maybe a revision.
You always have something to say, thank you.
Just want to be more.
And Michelle, I think, did you have something?
All right, wait for it.
You're saving the best for last.
So good observation, Justin. Some of those lingers and things we haven't closed, you make a very good observation there. It's worth looking at. The thing I want to probably dovetail with that a little bit, in my free time, you know, that was I was reading the government handbook on boards. I actually have a question, maybe that's something you can come up with sharing with you guys doing research. So in there, I can't get the exact chart, but my name is two types of government appointed boards. The top one is a lot different than the bottom one. The top one talks about commissions and boards have the ability to make independent action, such as approving that team, blah, blah, blah. And there's things in that statement there when it talks about it that are very specific that apply to the board, that authority, that are not being done specifically. And then you look at some stuff in that other one, the stuff that's certain doing is outside the scope of that. I don't know if it's a set in stone or if it's a guideline, but that might be worth looking at and getting some clarification.
Thank you. I'll go back and read that.
And I can tell you exactly what I'm talking about, but it talks about those appointed by the governor to boards who have the ability to take independent action, must be confirmed by the Senate. And some other language like that. Use the word commission. So, what looking at?
We may need to look at statutory changes.
Actually, I think you wanted to.
No, I was
Okay.
totally joking.
All right, last but not least, I would like to offer up that we have the Montana Liquid and Gas Pipeline Association meetings coming up this spring again. We do 23 meetings statewide. And this year's focus will be on a case study on the ExxonMobil release in the Yellowstone River from the emergency responders perspective. We've done a significant amount of interviews with emergency responders involved in that incident and tried to really give another realistic scenario that we can all learn from and just have that open discussion. So that's going to be, again, January through about April across the state. I'll forward out a copy of the invitation with the schedule to Bonnie and then I'll articulate that as well. So I'd like to see it, as we always do, try to make it to the Fire Services Training School website as far as your calendar goes. to make sure that the responders are aware of it as well. Just a heads up, we meet with over 600 emergency responders across the state every year through these state meetings, and we're starting to really see that we've developed that relationship with those responders through that. So just want to offer it up. If you see something come out with MLGPA across the top, you'll know what that is.
Thank you, Michelle, and the Department of Environmental Quality does send several people to those, throughout that time frame, and we really think that it's worth spending our time and effort to attend and to build those relationships and share information. So, and it's because we had such a significant role in dealing with the silver tip spill, this one will certainly garner a lot of interest and thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else from next time? For the good of the order and for discussion. Seeing that, we are hereby adjourned. No, well, yeah, I can say that. Next SERC meeting, you're absolutely correct. We need a date. Thank you. That's, you gotta keep me in line. Absolutely. I think it is.
First week in February.
Seems like we had our meeting in previous year.
Then some April, some May, I think this legislature was the session last April.